plan for this Gym Talks topic is a question from Sebastiontheli0n, lion spelled with a 0. And he says, for the non-competitive gym bro, well, I just read it a second ago, but for the non-competitive gym bro, how cut should you be before starting to main gain or bulk up? For the reasonably serious lifter, not like a crazy ass bodybuilder, but you're starting to lift. I want to beef up a little more. If I'm already kind of soft, do I really want to get even softer in a bulk? Then I'm going to have to deal with dieting down. It's a pretty damn good question, right? And to that, I would say, just how much body fat do you think you've got on your frame? Because as a beginner, you've got a lot of leeway. Let's say even a year 1, year 2 lifter, purely from eating your protein intake per day of, let's say you're a 200 pounder, eat 200 grams, you're a 150 pounder, eat 150 grams, all from at least reasonably quality protein sources, combined with working out and just eating foods that you're hungry for. That's going to be enough to make some pretty significant gains, at least as long as you're in the gym. Stimulus from the workouts is intense enough to actually elicit kind of a necessary response. But let's say we're kind of looking at someone who's a little bit plateaued. You've been working out for a year and a half. You would no longer consider yourself making super quick newbie gains. All right, so that's where I would say, if you can tell you've got a little bit of pudge on you, it might be a good idea to just do a short mini cut first. And I almost don't even like the phrase mini cut, because it's still a calorie deficit. It's just over kind of a relatively shorter period of time than most people would think. But kind of preemptive to starting a bulk, it's not a bad move. It's kind of weird if you haven't bulked up or cut down yet, because once you're in that cycle of things, then it's pretty easy to decide when you should cut down or when you should bulk up. Because if I just finish this bulk in September, I'm not gonna think to myself, oh, all right, let's start another bulk. It's just time to cut it and then switch back over, right? But if you haven't done either yet, then you might be a little curious. All right, well, do I want to get a little leaner first and then pack on size? Or should I just try to pack on size even if I think I'm a little soft now, and then deal with it later? Which I would argue, whichever one you think will leave you at the end of that bulking phase with the most reasonable amount of body fat on your frame. When I see guys bulking up and they get a little bit softer, you're still in the green, right? You're still basically within range of how bulked you can get responsibly if you don't get a certain level of body fat, right? Because if you got, I see guys running around now where their bulk it's taken to an irresponsible degree. I think I'm to blame a little bit. I was talking all my stuff about all the crazy junk food and everything else, but keep in mind that was with cardio, crazy workouts every day, actually burning through some of those calories as well. But if you know somebody who's taken the bulk too far, yeah, not awesome, right? Because you're really setting yourself up for failure. Because if you get too soft, when you try to cut down later, it's going to be so just freaking troublesome to lose all that body fat that you're going to diet for way longer than you preferably like to, and in the process, strength loss, probably some size loss as well. Then you got to build all that back up. So I guess if I had to make a guess or an estimate, if you're around 15-ish% body fat type of guy, you've been lifting, you're repping 185 minimum. You're up in the 220s for at least maybe a triple or so, and you look it up, just look up a body fat percentage chart and look up something like an 18%, 20%. If you're kind of already there, I think it might be a better idea to try to diet down at least, even just 1 month of a real deficit. If you counted your calories and you actually did it, even just 4 weeks, you can lose 4 pounds. It's not, you don't have to be dieting for months to suddenly make progress later. It's pretty instant if you actually get into a quick deficit. So I'd say if you can tell you're a little softer than you might like, or you at least don't want to get softer than you are right now, you know, just look up your maintenance calorie calculator, start tracking your macros, add some cardio in. I mean, there's a reason I say that every time, is because it freaking works. And if you can get into an actual deficit for 6 weeks, odds are you can bulk for much longer than 6 weeks, you know, eating in a minor surplus, and you're not going to gain 6 pounds in those 6 weeks of body fat back. It would take much longer, you know. So excuse me. But yeah, if you think you're a little on the softer side than you would prefer, it's probably a good idea. 2-month deficit, 6-week deficit. Actually do it. Don't just cheat. You know, just because you feel yourself getting a little bit weaker, that doesn't mean back off on your lifting intensity. I mean, frankly, the weight, if you kill it, if you're actually pushing your sets as hard as you can to failure, the actual weights that you're lifting, like the numbers themselves, are kind of inconsequential, right? If every cable stack, well, I mean, I guess these ones all have numbers on them, but if all the cable stacks in my gym didn't have numbers on them to tell me how heavy it was, or all the dumbbells were unlabeled and I didn't know how heavy each one of them was, you know, just by feeling, I'd be able to reach a weight where I'm like, okay, this is pretty heavy for me right now. I'm going to take this weight as hard as I can, right? So if it's a heavier set, then, you know, heavy might only be 40 pounds, right? I mean, look at the last couple lifts I was doing in the, you know, in the prep, the last few weeks getting ready for the Vegas show and the Arnold. I mean, I don't know what I was curling. Definitely not the 65s or the 70s. I mean, I was going much lighter. But the set still felt heavier because, you know, even though I was temporarily in a weaker state, you know, not moving around as much weight, the weight still felt the same. You know, do you get what I'm kind of saying? It's like if I got under a 5-plate squat, and that's as much as I could do for 10, and some other younger guy, or not younger, but just like less experienced lifting wise, got under 2 plates, and he could only do that for 10, then we're both feeling the basic equivalent weight, right? And if we both take that set to failure, then we're each pushing it to the same level of intensity. And honestly, I think that's a really good way to look at it, because then it's, you know, it's not so much, oh man, that guy's lifting so much more weights than me, right? If you really kill and you take a set extra, you know, extra hard, you're actually squeezing the top, you have somebody help you with some assisted reps or anything else, and you take a set to failure or beyond, I mean, there's nothing else you can do, you know? So I guess that's my logic. So I guess the one of the biggest points I'm trying to say there is, if you start a, you know, maybe a 2-month, 1.5 month dieting phase, getting ready for an off season, or I guess getting ready for a little bit of a bulk, or, you know, trying to eat just a bit more food, don't let those 6 weeks throw you off your game just because you might think, oh man, well, I was benching 225 for 10 last week, and then now I can only do it for 6. Oh, right? Because that is a very classic situation where it's, oh, I'm losing strength, I got to eat more food. My lifts are going down, I got to eat more. And then, you know, that's just holding you back from making the actual bulking progress that you wanted to later, because, you know, you're not giving yourself a little time to set yourself up in the beginning. You know, when somebody's building a skyscraper, they don't start with the windows, right? They don't start with the freaking top. They start with the with kind of the boring part, just digging out this foundation, filling up with concrete and rebar and everything else, and then starting to, you know, creep it up. I mean, it takes a while before it actually looks like anything cool, you know? So that's where time is on your side, because, I mean, shit, man. Do you remember when you graduated high school? Do you remember when you, I mean, back when you were a kid, like riding bikes around the city or something? Like, I mean, I'm sure it's not so different for you than it is for me. Like, it feels like that time passed by like nothing, you know? So that's where I say, just at least go for it now. And I'm sure your future self will not regret it. Or maybe if you did for some crazy reason, at least you can say, man, my freaking hamstrings are huge. These are nuts. But yeah, that's my little shtick. We got. I think this will be good. We should do. I think I'll start doing a little question to open these up. So Sebastian got the workout, the first one. But plan for tonight's lift, very chill, just hamstrings. Well, in chill I just mean hamstrings aren't the craziest muscle group. So I think it'll be mainly I think stuck in my tooth. But it'll be mainly laying leg curls, a little bit of standing single leg curls in the leg extension, kind of jerry rigging, a little bit of a setup over there, and then some Smith machine RDLs. I think that that'll be the trifecta of today's hamstring workout. Now, soon enough, I'm going to get some extra leg equipment, so it'll be another seated curl and another seated leg extension. But I mean, with hamstrings, not the most complicated thing in the world, you know. Plus, if you're actually going hard on your leg pressing, not so much squats or like pendulums or hack squats, but like regular sled loaded leg press, you end up working a lot of hamstring. I mean, much more than I would have previously thought, to the point where now when I do my just, you know, quad only day and it's a ton of heavy leg press, I mean, my hamstrings still end up getting pretty damn fatigued afterward, just because of the kind of secondary activation that they get from that movement, you know. So that's what's really making me have a nasty quad day and a more chill hamstring day, at least in terms of overall like workload, if you kind of if you get what I'm saying. Because even right now, I mean, flexing my quads, I can still feel them a little bit for that last leg workout. So I want them to get back to 100% before I start start throwing anything around again. But this shouldn't take too long. Honestly, probably like 30 minutes after I put my stuff down and get moving. And well, I guess let's just jump in there. All right, let's start simple, light-ish, but heavy enough I can really feel it. And these are going to be pretty controlled. All right. Oh my God, okay. A few more just like that. Whew. Yeah, I don't think I can go any heavier. Oh my God. Oh, okay. Oh, holy crap. I gotta drop the weight a little. Yeah, I don't think I'm ever gonna be stacking this machine, that's for sure. Oh yeah. Holy crap. Oh. Yeah, let's do some RDLs. And I think I'll come back and finish with this, but the finisher sets will be a little different. Not so simple as those 3 openers. Whew. Now those are hitting though. It's not my ideal favorite, but Smith machine RDLs are up there. Sometimes I'm more in the mood for dumbbell. Hardly ever barbell. That does not do it for me as much. Really, my favorite is when it's a sort of a big ass setup with a upright pad or an upright like foot stand, and then 2 cables real deep, right? Because when you're, because it's kind of the best of both worlds, or like the best of every world, when it comes to hamstrings, because I don't have to keep my hands in front of my shins like I do with the bar. And something about the way the cable stack loads it, I don't know, I just like it. But this isn't very far off. So plan here, slow-ish reps. And failure in RDLs is a little on the ambiguous side to the third person observer, because I could probably keep doing reps but rely much more on my glutes and my lower back rather than just my hamstrings, you know. So I'm trying to reach a point where I can tell my hamstrings can't really substantially help anymore, and then once I feel my glutes and lower back start to take over, that's my cue to rack it. But I think 1 or 2 of these, and then back to maybe some single leg curls or something, and it'll be done. Doesn't take a ton, but I want to, you know, make sure these sets are actually, you know, dense and intense. So let me pick a good song. All right. Okay. Oh, goodness. Yeah, probably 1 more of those. Whew. Okay. Oh my God. Let's go back to some leg curls. I think a drop set is in order. And frankly, if I kill it here and I can tell, you know, I've got all the freaking, you know, water out of the towel that is my hamstrings, then this can be it. But we'll see. So let's start with 100 and then go from there. Oh my God. Okay. Okay, I think that's it. Let's get out of here. Whew. Yeah, not much to see after a hamstring only pump, but that was good. Yeah, and that leg curl, the laying one, yeah. I don't know if it's a strength curve. I guess I need to kind of feel it a little bit more to get the real gist of it. But it starts like deep. Like when I'm fully laying down on that pad and I completely extend my legs, like the weight can still go down a little further. So for one, that's something to be careful of, right? Because that's almost like doing a dang preacher curl, you know, and your arm goes all the way straight and then the weight still wants to keep pulling you down. So, you know, I'm not gonna sit there and totally wrench the weight around like a total nutcase. But yeah, I think I've been missing out on the stretch with two muscle groups in particular, triceps and hamstrings. Quads I'm getting a bit better at as well, especially with the leg extensions going actually like past 90, or at least, you know, as deep as I can go. But I used to have a habit of just, all right, I want to do a heavy set, or no, I want to do a good hard set. So that means as heavy as possible, and then, well, you know, just because going all the way down to the stretch position, that's, come on, man. Goodness. That's, what was I about to say? Oh, well, that's only for a light squeezing set. You know, if I'm going heavy, I don't have to stretch all the way. You know, I mean, look 2 years ago at my freaking tricep sets. Dude, like, sure, you know, heavy, stacked plus plates slapped on the side, but like I'm not even hitting 90. You know, I'm just down here. Now, of course, I still felt it, so I'm getting a bit of like confirmation bias that I was at least doing something. But ever since I started biasing a lot more rope extensions, going all the way up to the top, like basically just getting to the point where I'm not even flexing my triceps. This is just as bent as my arms will go. And then doing another set. I think that's pointing me in the right direction. But yeah, a little bit more of a chill quad day, or leg day today, but it's only in contrast to the crazy quad day in, what is it? Chest, back, arm? Yeah, well, 4 days from now. So in terms of gym upgrades, there's one I can think of, because now it's starting to get freaking hot, you know, to the point where I need to get one of those big ass, like, cylindrical seated kind of fans, because right now it's got a heater, like that space has a big ass heater, so I mean I'm never concerned with getting cold, but there's no AC. So the warmer it gets, yeah, I'm gonna be freaking drenched, but with some more airflow, oh goodness, shouldn't be too much of a problem. But yeah, I mean, I had it set to like 68, and really I felt it after that first set of RDLs. I looked at the AC, or the thermostat. It was at 76, and it's only going to keep getting freaking warmer. But honestly, I kind of like working in at least a relatively warm space. I'm not talking sauna hot, like there is a limit. But yeah, I mean, especially after, or like those last month, you know, 8 weeks or so of dieting, I ended up lifting at like just kind of more secluded gyms, just because I wanted to get the lift done, do my cardio, and then get back home. It was kind of counterintuitive, because usually I would think that the dieting is easier, because I don't have to sit eating a ton of food all the time. Because if you're really into a deep bulk, just like sitting, eating, and getting all this food together, it does start to eat up a chunk of your time. All right, so usually when I diet, I guess more casually, like when I do just my mini cuts between bulks, and it's only like a 2.5 month thing, it's not that hard, right? Because it's, I mean, 2.5 months, at least for me, that's well within my comfort zone of dieting, right? Because I mean, if I just bulked up for 6 months, I'm ready to diet, like I want to. But yeah, I was reaching a point where it was getting much more challenging at the end of prep. That's for freaking sure. But the gym I was going to, they had the AC off, or they had the heating off overnight, because it was like a 24-hour kind of like keypad entered space. So it would be like 60 overnight, because it was during the winter. And I would, I mean, if you go back and look at some of those, like some of those X days out, or like, you know, day whatever of that diet, or the the shredathon, I was wearing like 2 sweatshirts or a hoodie and a long sleeve, because it was taking me forever to get warm in there. So I definitely think there's a little bit of a benefit to more of a warmer space, but obviously if it's too warm, it's a little bit too crazy, you know. So, plan for tonight's meal. Not sure. Actually, no, I am sure. I'm almost out of ground beef. I almost have to cook a ton of it now because I end up eating it like by the half pound, like 8 ounces per meal. So what I've been doing is I'll cook like 5 pounds at once, just throw them all into a pot, low heat, stir as necessary, strain off all the fat, and then just pour it into a salad bowl so I can scoop it out as necessary, right? If I've got any kitchen tips for you, it's cooking any bulk meats like that, ground beef, ground turkey, well, I guess anything ground, in a big pot instead of a pan, right? I don't know if you've ever, well, I guess that's more of a steak thing, but honestly, steaks too, right? I mean, if you got like an actual kind of saucepan looking thing and it's wide enough to put a steak down on, gee, man, save yourself from splattering all over your freaking, all over your stovetop. But then you can actually stir it around and you don't have to worry about spilling it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had a, oh jeez. I mean, if you've ever had a full-on, like, skillet with 3, well, even just 2, but 2 or 3 pounds of ground beef on top, and it just fills the entire container of it, you've got no ability to stir it. Then you're just sitting here trying to cook like a damn ground beef wafer, right? And don't even freaking bother trying not to spill it if you think about straining it out by putting the lid on top and folding it over. Yeah, it's just nuts. But having stuff like that readily available, that's the sweet spot. Frankly, that's one thing that I gotta up my game with. I have it sitting around somewhere. I've got a rice cooker. That's what I need to do. Because right now I've just been cooking the rice on demand, or I've got like rice packs, like the microwavable single serving ones. So I'll just like make 2 of those at once, pour it into a bowl of ground beef, and it's solid. But the simpler the foods that I eat end up being, the easier it just is on my stomach. So I think I got to get into the habit of having a rice cooker on the stovetop just at all times. So let's say I'm going to eat 400 grams of carbs worth of rice that day. Just get that ready in the morning and then pick it out throughout the day, right? Because the easier it is for you to prep these meals, the easier of a time you're going to have being consistent with it. Right now I'm not so serious, or it's not that I'm not so serious, it's that it's not such a high stakes thing for me to keep eating this much food, because this is only barely like 6 or 7 weeks into this bulking phase. So if I have a day where I only eat like 2,000 calories or whatever, it's not going to throw me off my game just yet, because I'm still ramping up my food intake. But fast forward 3 months, when I'm eating like 4,500, 4,800 calories every day, like very consistently, if I have a day where I get off my game and I miss my meals, then it really does put a wrench in my gears. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but it'll be to the point where, like, when I'm tracking my weight gain, steady increase, one big off day, be it from, the main things that used to get in the way of my bulks were like finals, traveling, just random things like that. Like a full day on a plane, if you didn't bring meals with you, dude, that can throw off your game. I'm talking like steady gains, crash, right? Like I think the steepest loss from like morning weight to morning weight, probably like 6 or 7 pounds maybe, if I really didn't eat or drink anything. And then it's almost like from my stomach's perspective, oh, we're not eating a bunch of food anymore? Finally, right? I can chill. Because your body doesn't want to grow. At least, not once you're kind of relatively full grown. If you're like 13, it's a little different. But you don't really want to bulk up or cut down. That's why it's so difficult to make these changes to your body's composition. Because it just wants to stay the same. Like, frankly, from your build's perspective, it wants to eat the same amount of food every day, drink the same amount of water, do the same amount of activity, get the same amount of sleep, and just stay very consistent, right? So for you to take control over that natural instinct to just, remain stagnant, it's not a super easy thing to do. It's not impossible, And honestly, it's not the most complicated either. But, you know, it's just these little things being consistent on the regular, right? Meals, calories, sleep, drinking a freaking ton of water, cardio. I would, you know what my stance is there. I don't even have to get into it. And then that's really what's going to separate guys who have successful off-season, successful kind of bulking, gaining phases versus guys who, you know, are sitting around, man, I'm eating 8,000 calories a day, but I'm not growing. Dude, you don't know. I'm eating 8,000 a day, but I just can't seem to grow, man. I got a fast metabolism. I don't have a rebuttal. You know, sometimes you got to listen to that and say, man, that's crazy. Maybe you got to eat 20,000. Shit, man, maybe you got to start eating 50,000 a day. Then you'll start growing, you know. That's up to you, right? But if I'm being a bit more real, we know the drill. And anybody who's, if you know anybody like that, I don't think there's a good separation. There's people who overestimate their calorie intake. That's this group right here. And then there's people who track their calories and who get it. They get the cardio, they get the calories, they understand like holding water, holding carbs, being depleted. And these two do not overlap, you know. So if I've got any kind of message I want to spread, if you can get a grasp of the gist of how the calories that you get in are going to affect your progress, you are not one step ahead of the game. You are leaps and bounds ahead of the game. So that's my finisher kind of statement there. So send that to anybody who you know, kind of maybe they haven't been tracking, and maybe they're not exactly sure what 50 grams of carbs of rice even looks like, right? So that's all of our responsibilities collectively, right? To try to spread the good word. But plan now, eat something, and then pass out. I am ready for bed. I don't know what's going on though. I have been having like the wildest dreams. Like I had one, I was like on this roller coaster, and then it came off the tracks. And like, I'm not one to ever have like what I call a nightmare. Like even if I have a crazy, like what you might conventionally call a scary dream, it doesn't like mess with me. But yeah, holy crap. Yeah, last night I woke up at like 3, and it wasn't like a gentle, like I went, oh. Yeah, that was freaking nuts. But it's partially to be expected. If you, if you've ever heard somebody say that if you drink apple juice before bed, it's going to make you have more vivid dreams, there is some logic there, right? I'm sure somebody can give a deeper explanation. But, you know, when I'm dieting and I've got just on average lower blood sugar because I'm not eating so many carbs every day or right before bed, right? What does your brain run on? Right? Dang glucose, glycogen. So when you eat a ton of food, if you go to bed with a full stomach full of carbs and your blood sugar's up a little, it is going to make your brain a little bit more active. So at least that's, you know, what I kind of have come to understand. If you've got a rebuttal, I'd love to hear it. You know, I need all the scientific info I can get. Well, to a degree, you know. But plan for tomorrow with chest. We'll see. I got to see how I feel. Because last chest day, I did a ton of heavy pressing. So usually I do like, well, I don't know. So when I say heavy pressing, what I really mean is like slower sets of pressing, a little bit more torturous. Because if I do like 3 sets of incline dumbbell and I'm really throwing the weight around, like sure, I do hit failure, but I'm kind of using my chest's like elastic ability to lift the weight, you know. Like if I do a set of slow hamstring curls where there's no swinging involved and the only thing that moves the weight is like physical contractions, then I mean, I do think that's at least a very different set than if I bounce the weight around. Now, I'm not saying that bouncing method doesn't have a place, right? Like a quick, nasty set of cable curls or some like, you know, finisher sets of pushdowns. But I think with chest, I've been biasing quicker reps with the heavy weight a bit too much. So I'm going to start doing heavier sets a bit slower, and it's not purely for the sake of going slower, right? Because everybody says that, control your reps, slow, eccentric, whatever. But, it's more so just now I kind of understand the feeling that if I load, 3 plates on the chest press and throw it around really quickly, maybe I only get 15 reps. But if I do 4 plates much slower, and let's say I also got 15 or something, or maybe 10 or whatever, but the reps were much slower and the only thing moving it was just real freaking contractions, it just feels kind of different. So that's one part of my lifting style that I'm trying to adjust going forward. And then, I guess we'll see, because I have a pretty good grasp of like what my normal off-season progression looks like. So I want to kind of try to break off from that pattern, so if I can up my chest game, up my arm game, up my back game, up my leg game, frankly, up the game all over the place, right? That is more than in my best interest. So that's all I got. Hopefully you get a damn good night's rest, and maybe you've got some chest tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe we'll be doing a set at the exact same freaking time. But either way, I'll see you then.